West Africa once had one of the most dominant aviation industry in Africa. At the helm of the region's commercial aviation industry was Nigeria Airways. The airline was once a symbol of Nigeria's growing profile internationally. At its peak, the airline had a fleet of 26 aircraft. However, the company folded in 2003 with only 2 airworthy planes. So what happened? Initially, the main airline in West Africa was known as West African Airways Corporation. It was jointly owned by the 4 West African British colonies of Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia. In 1958, the airline was dissolved and the other states went on to form their own national airlines. Nigeria, being the majority owner, took over the assets and liabilities of the airline. The WAAC brand had gained a lot of prestige, and so the newly formed airline operated as WAAC Nigeria. The government of Nigeria owned a majority 51% stake in the new airline, and the rest 49% was owned by the British Overseas Airways Corporation and the now defunct Elder Dempster Lines. In 1961, the government of Nigeria took full ownership of the airline and named it the national carrier. In 1971, the airline was rebranded to Nigeria Airways. The airline steadily expanded its fleet and destinations in Africa and internationally. Its most notable international destinations were daily flights to London and twice-a-week flights to New York. The airline hit its peak in 1982 with a fleet of 26 aircraft, flying over 2 million passengers annually to 38 foreign and local destinations. During this time, it was the fastest growing member of the International Air Transport Association. The airline had struggled with internal management issues and profitability had been elusive. In 1979, a 2-year management and training contract was signed with KLM Royal Dutch with an emphasis on making the airline more efficient and profitable. KLM found that no accounts had ever been published and there was a huge backlog of unsettled debts from passenger and freight movement on behalf of the government departments. In 1983, under the newly military regime, the managerial structure and personnel of the airline was changed. Most of the staff members who had been trained by the KLM crew were fired and replaced. A culture of corruption, mismanagement, nepotism spread within the airline. Overstaffing had become problematic. For every plane owned, there were 500 employees, twice the international average. The government said fares were priced too low. Government employees would often fly free of charge. Consequently, the airline became chronically short of cash and heavily dependent on the government for its financial upkeep. By the late 1980s, service had deteriorated and fares had sharply increased. It was so bad that even government employees who were required to use the national airline flew overseas on foreign airlines. In April 1987, then Minister of Transport and Aviation Brigadier Jerry Useni addressed the employees saying, "Our national airline is a disgrace. Lateness, delays, outright cancellation of flights, and a nonchalant attitude of staff toward customers are part of our operational guide. You must sit up and improve. Otherwise, you'll be signing your own death warrant." At that time, the fleet had reduced to 18 aircraft and only 8 were reported operational. There was no functioning repair and maintenance hangar. This possibly contributed to the airline's poor safety record. During its existence, it recorded 16 incidents, of which 8 had fatalities. The airline was also facing serious competition from other private local airlines. The government even mandated the private airlines to just operate locally. Consecutive years of corruption and mismanagement leading to poor services had forced even the most loyal customers to opt for other airlines. Some of its aircraft were impounded in Europe due to unpaid debts. Nigeria Airways had clearly lost the prestige it once commanded. Due to declining performance and rising debts, a decision was finally made in 2003 to liquidate the airline. The airline's debt was over $500 million, even though the government had pumped over $200 million in the last 10 years of operation. As for its fleet, only 2 barely functional planes were left. A commission of inquiry set up to investigate into the management of the airline revealed astounding levels of fraud and misappropriation of resources. Unfortunately, none of the individuals and companies indicted were ever prosecuted for their role. Some of these individuals are still active in the aviation industry. So, I have a question for you. Do you think Nigeria Airways could have been saved?